Shalom. First and foremost, I would like to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rekakadash, and double honors and respect to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone for teaching me this truth, as well as much respect and honors to the brothers that are pushing this truth in sincerity across the four winds of this earth and risking their lives for freedom to do so. I would also like to give much honors and respect to the brothers and sisters that are of the hopeful elect that are doing their very best to keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High to the best of their abilities. Shalom. I have this article right here, and this is actually a fairly new article. It's about 11 hours old, and I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into it. But before I get started, I will say this, Israel. I'm going to be very careful with the words that I say, because you already know how these devils like to get down, especially when you start talking about particular topics such as this one right here. And the title of the article, it says Maryland health officials monitoring two residents for potential H. pestilence exposure. Okay. Now here it is, concerning this H. pestilence. Here it is. I had done just a little bit of research on it, and from what I'm seeing, they're saying over here in the U.S. That there's a total of about 10 cases. I think they said there was 8 that are confirmed, and there's 2 that are probable. And these cases were linked to that MV, I guess that's a Hondias cruise ship, the way you had those 3 people who supposedly had perished as a result of this pestilence. Okay. And so now here it is, they're monitoring people who were potentially exposed, to, I guess, those who were on that ship and whatnot. And so they're saying, I guess, that there's 2 people here in the state of Maryland that were potentially exposed, to this H. pestilence. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to read a little bit of this article. It says Maryland health officials are monitoring 2 residents who were on a flight that briefly include an MV Hondias cruise ship passenger infected with the H. pestilence, according to the Department of Health. Okay. And so here it is. I mean, there's also, there's also other, I guess cases to where people are being monitored over here in Babylon the Great, who were potentially, I guess, exposed, to people who were on that ship. Okay. And so with that being said, don't be surprised, if these devils blow this thing up. Not saying that they are, but at the end of the day, I'm saying don't be surprised that they blow this thing up. Because here it is, there's already talks of these devils coming out with a jump shot for this particular pestilence. Okay. And with that being said, Israel, I would not be trusting these devils, with any jump shot. Okay. I think we saw, what happened to these people who trusted in these devils with that stuff, during that sea scandal. And we're seeing the outcome of what's happened to a lot of these people who ran down there and trusted in the devil with that stuff. It's not ending well for them. It says health authorities are taking steps out of an abundance of caution. It says at this time, the risk to the public in Maryland remains low. It says 2 Maryland residents with potential exposures were not passengers on the cruise ship, but the potential exposure occurred during air travel abroad. It says the Maryland Department of Health will not release additional information about the 2 residents to protect their privacy. Okay. And see, here it is. You had this one devil. He says something along the lines of, you never let a good crisis go to waste. And so again, don't be surprised, Israel, if these devils, take this thing and blow this thing up. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised if you see a repeat, of what happened in 2020. I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but at the end of the day, I'm saying don't be surprised. Okay, it says the H. pestilence are a family of pestilences carried by rodents, and cases are known to occur in the United States. Okay, it says although most diseases stemming from the H. pestilence are not known to spread between people, it says the pestilence associated with the MV Hondias passengers is the Aedes pestilence found in South America. Okay, it says it is the only known H. pestilence capable of person-to-person transmission, though such transmissions is rare and generally require close, prolonged contact with an infected individual or their bodily fluids. It says the incubation period ranges from 4 to 42 days and asymptomatic persons are not considered infectious. Okay. It says no H. pestilence cases have been identified in Maryland since 2019. It says the Aedes pestilence infections have never been reported in Maryland. It says the Maryland Department of Health is coordinating closely across all levels of government, as well as, with leading experts in the medical facilities with Salakia that have regional emerging special pathogen treatment centers. And so again, don't be surprised if you see a repeat of 2020, okay? Because here it is, these devils, they're already talking about coming up with a jump shot for this particular pestilence, okay? And then here it is, they're talking about that they're monitoring people over here in Babylon the Great that may have potentially been exposed, to people who were on that ship, okay? And so again, don't be surprised if they blow this thing up, or if this thing blows up. I want to go ahead and bring out a couple of scriptures. The first scripture I want to go to actually is in the book of 2nd Ezra. I want to go to 2nd Ezra chapter 16. Okay. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, and I want to start in verse 19. And it reads, "Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for a minute." And that's right. Okay, because ultimately the Lord Yahweh Shai is in control of all things. The Lord controls the left-hand side as well as the right-hand side. And the Lord uses Esau as a whipping stick. And the Lord is using Esau to engineer food shortages or famine, because here it is, there's reports of food shortages that are happening over here in Babylon the Great. And, they're talking about more food shortages are coming. Okay, and so, with the food shortages, that's going to hurt these truckers. And so, these truckers are not going to be able to run. And so, therefore, that's going to contribute to empty shelves in your grocery stores as well as your retail stores. And as I had mentioned, there's already reports, of food shortages. There's also reports of shortages of other goods and supplies that are happening in various parts of Babylon the Great. And more of these things are coming. Okay, this place is just going to continue to wax worse and worse. It says, "Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for a minute." Okay, and here it is, we've been hearing about, different, pestilences and things like that are on the rise. Okay, and again, more of these things are coming. Okay, and again, the Lord uses Esau as a whipping stick, to basically engineer shortages or famine, as well as, to engineer these different pestilences and plagues and tribulation and anguish. And the Lord uses Esau to do these things, to punish those that are being wicked. Okay, the Lord uses Esau as a whipping stick. And the Lord is in control of all things. The Lord controls the left-hand side as well as the right-hand side. And this is why the Lord Yahweh Shai is to be feared. But see, here it is. You have a lot of our people. They don't fear the Lord. Okay, you have a lot of our people. They're not repenting. Okay, a lot of our people, they just want to continue on in the ways that's being pushed out over here in Babylon the Great. They just want to continue on in the wickedness and the folly that's being pushed out over here. And with that being said, those of our people who are not seeking the Lord, those of our people who are not repenting, it's not going to end well for them. They're going to get caught into the famines. Okay, they're going to get caught into the plagues, the tribulations, the anguish, right along with these Edomites and the rest of these heathens, because they're being wicked just like these Edomites and the rest of these heathens. And when I say our people, I'm talking about the nation of Israel. Again, who are you so-called blacks, Hispanics, Native Americans, and those that are of the speckled bird that look like these other nations, but you go back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob on your father's side. It's time to get right with the Lord Yahweh Shai Israel so that you and yours can have that hedge of protection over you. Because again, those by people who are not seeking the Lord, it's not going to end well for them. Okay? They're going to continue to meet the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Shai. And the famines, the plagues, the tribulation, the anguish, these are ultimately judgments coming from the Lord Yahweh Shai. And again, the Lord uses Esau as a whipping stick to bring these different things, to bring these different calamities. Okay? Because again, the Lord controls the left-hand side as well as the right-hand side. The Lord is in control of all things. And again, this is why the Lord Yahweh Shai is to be feared. So now is the time to get right with the Lord Yahweh Shai Israel. So that you and yours can have that hedge of protection over you. 2nd Ezra chapter 16, this is verse 20. It says, "But for all these things, they should not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges." Okay? And see, at the end of the day, You're going to have the 2/3 by people over here in Babylon the Great. They're just going to continue to be wicked. The 2/3 by people that are not going to repent. And this is why, the 2/3 by people, they're going to continue to get caught into the evils and the calamities, okay, that the Most High is sending on this place. And again, these are judgments coming from the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah, the calamities, okay, the tribulations, the pestilences, the famines. These are judgments coming from the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. And the Lord sends these different things, okay, to punish those that are being wicked. And so therefore, 2/3 of our people, they're going to receive the same harsh judgments as these Edomites and the rest of these heathens over here. 2/3 of our people are going to feel the wrath of the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah right along with these Edomites and the rest of these heathens, because they're being wicked, just like these Edomites and the rest of these heathens. I want to drop down to verse 37. This is 2nd Ezra chapter 16. This is verse 37. And it reads, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack." Okay, and that's right, okay? Because, every morning, every hour, evils are happening all over the earth, and they're not going to stop. Okay, they're just going to continue to happen, especially over here in Babylon the Great, because the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah has it in for Babylon the Great, because Babylon the Great is that main hub that pushes out all the wickedness throughout the entire earth. Okay, and so more plagues are coming to Babylon the Great, okay, which is going to lead to the destruction of Babylon the Great. And so again, this is why you have to spiritually detach yourself from this place, Israel, and return to the Father and the Son, so that you can have that hedge of protection of you, because the Lord is going to protect the elect man, lady, and children. But as for the 2/3 of our people, it's not going to end well for them. They're going to get caught into the plagues, okay? They're going to get caught into the pestilences, the different pestilences. They're going to get caught into the famines, okay? They're going to get caught into some type of freak accident. They're going to get caught into the evils and the calamities, okay, that are coming. And see, Jacob's trouble is here, okay? And you're already having hell is beginning to break loose over here in various parts of Babylon the Great. And very soon, all hell is going to be breaking loose over here in Babylon the Great. And again, it's not going to end well for the 2/3 of our people. They're going to meet harsh judgments, okay? Uh-oh, my bad. I don't know what I've done, but we'll continue on. It says, verse 37 again, it says, "Behold, the plagues draw nigh and are not slack." Verse 38, it says, "As when a woman with child in the 9th month bringeth forth her son, within 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains compass her womb, which pains when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment." Okay, and so we're definitely in perilous times, okay, which are dangerous times, okay, which are like birth pains or labor pains. And the days are just going to continue to wax worse and worse. Again, more evils, more calamities are coming to Babylon the Great. And these are ultimate judgments coming from the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah. Again, the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is smiting America with plagues. And with that being said, America is not going to recover, okay? This place is literally circling the toilet. And again, it's ultimately the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah that's bringing down this wicked queen of Esau. And the Lord is going to continue to send these different plagues upon Babylon the Great to punish those that are being wicked, as well as to bring down this wicked queen of Esau, okay? And those by people who don't want to spiritually detach themselves from this place and return to the Father and the Son, they're going to fall over here in Babylon the Great, right along with these Edomites and the rest of these heathens. 2nd Ezra chapter 16, this is verse 39. It says, "Even so shall not the plagues be slack to come upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and sorrow shall come upon it on every side." Okay, and see, there's no escaping the plagues. More plagues are coming. More evils, more calamities are coming, especially over here to Babylon the Great, okay, which is going to lead to the destruction of Babylon the Great. Because again, Babylon the Great is that main hub that pushes out all the wickedness throughout the entire earth. And the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah has his eye upon this wicked queen of Esau. And the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is smiting Babylon the Great with plagues. And that ultimate plague that the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah is going to send upon Babylon the Great, it's going to come by way of thermonuclear missiles, which is going to annihilate this place and all these wicked people over here. Okay? But again, this place is on life support, and that plug is soon about to be pulled. So, now is the time to get right with the Lord Yahweh Shem Shah, Israel. Now is the time to repent. I want to go to 2nd Ezra chapter 15. Chapter 15. And I want to drop down to verse 49. 2nd Ezra chapter 15, verse 49, and it reads, "I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence." It says to waste thy houses with destruction and death. Okay, and see, here it is, we're hearing about pestilences. They're talking about this H pestilence that's on the rise, okay? And it's ultimately the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua that's sending these different calamities. Again, to bring down this wicked kingdom of Esau's, as well as to punish those that are being wicked. Okay. And so, again, but with that being said, the Lord is not going to, the Lord is going to protect the elect man, lady, and children. Okay. The elect will have that hedge of protection over them. And Lord willing, we have that elect number. But as for 2/3 of our people over here in Babylon the Great, again, it's not going to end well for them. Those of our people who fall into the 2/3 category, those of our people who are being wicked, they're going to receive the same harsh judgments, as these Edomites and the rest of these heathens over here. The 2/3 of our people are going to get caught into the widowhood. They're going to get caught into the poverty, the famine, the sword, and the pestilence, because of all the wickedness that they're partaking in. Okay. And see, as I had mentioned, these devils, they're already talking about coming out with another jump shot, okay, for this particular H pestilence, And with that being said, Israel, I would not be trusting these devils with any of their different jump shots, because we're seeing the outcome of what's happening to a lot of these people who ran down to Esau during that sea scandemic, and they trusted, Esau with that Beetlejuice that he came out with for that sea scandemic. Here it is. You got people that are flopping and dropping all over the place still. Okay, people are having all types of health issues and whatnot. Here it is. I got a family member right now. Okay, she ran down there and she trusted in Esau, with that Beetlejuice during that sea scandemic. And here it is. She has cancer right now. Here it is. Last year, I lost another relative to cancer because she ran down there and she also trusted in Esau with that Beetlejuice, that he came out with during that sea scandemic. So again, I would not be trusting this devil, okay, with any of his different Beetlejuices. I want to end off in the book of Proverbs. Proverbs chapter 3. And I want to start in verse 5. This is Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5. And it reads, "Trust in the Lord with all thy heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding." Okay, that's right. We're supposed to trust in the Lord, okay, and not lean on our own understanding. And see, the Lord says to never trust our enemy. And Esau has proven time and time again that he is our enemy. All this devil Esau has been doing is just raping, robbing, and murdering our people. He's been doing it all throughout history, and he's still doing it to this day. Okay? And so again, we're supposed to trust in the Lord and not lean on our own understanding. And see, here it is, a few years back, a lot of our people, what did they do? During that sea scandemic, they leaned on their own understanding. Okay? And they trusted in the devil versus trusting in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. They leaned on their own understanding and they trusted in Esau, with that Beetlejuice that he came out with during that sea scandemic. And we're seeing the outcome of what's happening, okay, of what's happening to these people who did that, who trusted in this devil versus trusting in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Those are people who ran down there and they trusted in the devil versus trusting in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. It's not ending well for them, okay? They're having all types of issues, They're dropping, just flopping and dropping all over the place, unexpectedly and whatnot, Proverbs chapter 3 and verse 5 again, it says, "Trust in the Lord with all thy heart and lean not unto thy own understanding." Verse 6, it says, "In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." Okay? And so, we're supposed to lean on the Lord, and we're supposed to acknowledge the Lord in all of our ways. Okay? And by, acknowledging and putting, our faith and trust in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua, the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua will keep us on the straight and righteous path, to avoid all of these different snares that this devil Esau is setting out here, okay? And this devil, he's setting different snares and traps out here because this devil, he has an agenda, okay? He's trying to bring in his NWO. He's trying to prolong his rulership. Also, too, this devil, he wants to cull the herd, okay, as you would say, okay? He wants to delete off a bunch of people, And so, again, Esau, he's not to be trusted. Here it is. I mean, during that sea scandemic, that Beetlejuice that, this devil came out with, that was one of, Esau's many different snares. And a lot of our people, they got caught up into that snare because they trusted in the enemy versus trusting in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And again, it's not ending well for those who did that. Okay? And so, we're supposed to put all of our faith and trust in the Lord Yahweh Shem Yahushua. And so I'm going to go ahead and end off here. I hope it was edifying. Once again, I want to give all honor, praises, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and double honors and respect to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, Kwame Yasharada and Abba Babar. Shalom.